You know there are some moments in history when you just can't stay quiet. Today feels like one of those moments. So let's talk honestly, no sugarcoating, no hiding behind big words about something that's shaking up the moral fabric of our society, the whole debate around marriage. And I'm not talking about a passing trend or just some new idea floating around. No, this is a real deep shift, one that's got people everywhere questioning what marriage actually means, who gets to define it and why it matters. Here's the thing, marriage isn't just a word or a legal contract you sign at City Hall, it's way bigger than that. From the very beginning, like Garden of Eden beginning, marriage was set up as something sacred, not just a partnership but a covenant. That's a word we don't use much anymore, but it means something serious. A promise, a bond, something you don't just walk away from when things get tough. It's about giving your whole self, not just sharing an apartment or splitting the rent. Now, why does this matter? Because lately, there's been a push to redefine marriage. People are saying it's just about love, or just about what makes two people happy. And look, love and happiness are awesome, but marriage in its deepest sense is about more than that. It's about unity, about two becoming one, about building a future, and yes, about creating new life. That's the design, the blueprint, the why behind the what. But here's where it gets tricky. When we start to treat marriage as just another contract, something you can rewrite, renegotiate, or redefine whenever you want, it loses its meaning. It's like taking a masterpiece painting and scribbling over it because you want to add your own touch. Sure, you can do it, but you're missing the point of why it was painted that way in the first place. And let's be real, no government, no court, no public opinion poll can change what marriage is at its core. They can pass laws, they can change definitions in the dictionary, but they can't rewrite the truth that's been there since the dawn of time. Marriage is a covenant between one man and one woman set up by something bigger than any of us. That's not just tradition, that's the foundation. Now, I know some people will say, hey, that's old-fashioned, or we need to move with the times, but think about it. Nature itself points to this design. The way our bodies are made, the way we connect, even the way we raise kids, it all fits together in a way that's not random. It's purposeful, it's got meaning. And when we ignore that, when we try to override it, we end up with confusion, not clarity. Let's talk about the body for a second. Our bodies aren't just shells we live in, they're part of the message. Male and female different but complementary, not just for the sake of being different, but because together they create something new. That's not a flaw, that's a feature. It's a sign that there's a deeper truth at work. And when we lose sight of that, when we start saying that gender doesn't matter or that marriage can mean whatever we want, we're not just changing a word, we're changing the whole story. We're saying that the body doesn't matter, that identity is just something we make up as we go along. But deep down, we all know that's not true. There's a design, a purpose, a meaning that's bigger than any one of us. Now let's get into something that's been popping up everywhere, language. Words like love is love, marriage, equality, my truth, gender identity, family is fluid. These phrases sound nice, right? They're catchy. But if you look closer, you'll see that they actually hide more than they reveal. They take words that used to mean something deep and turn them into slogans. And when that happens, we start to lose our grip on what's real. Take love is love. On the surface, it sounds like a call for unity and kindness. But love isn't just a feeling. It's not just about what makes us happy in the moment. Real love is about seeking the good of the other, about truth, about sacrifice. When we separate love from truth, we end up with something that looks like love but isn't the real thing. It's just sentiment. Or look at marriage equality. It sounds fair, right? But equality doesn't mean sameness. It doesn't mean that every relationship, no matter what, is the same as marriage. Marriage has a unique role, a unique design, and when we treat it like it's just one option among many, we lose what makes it special. And don't even get me started on tolerance. Tolerance used to mean respecting people even when you disagree. Now it's turned into a demand that we all agree on everything or else. But real tolerance means holding on to truth while still loving and respecting others. It's not about giving up what you believe just to fit in. So why is all this happening? Why are words being twisted, meanings changed, and traditions questioned? Because when you change the language, you change the way people think. And when you change the way people think, you change the way they live. That's why this debate isn't just about marriage, it's about the very foundation of our society. When marriage is redefined, it's not just about who can get married, it's about what marriage means for everyone, for families, for kids, for the future. Kids need a mom and a dad. Not just two adults who love them, but the unique gifts that a mother and a father bring. When we blur those lines, we're not helping kids, we're taking something away from them that they need to grow and thrive. And it goes even deeper. When we lose sight of what marriage is, we start to lose sight of who we are. Our identity, our purpose, our connection to something bigger than ourselves, it all gets blurry. We end up chasing after whatever feels good in the moment instead of building something that lasts. Look, I know this isn't an easy conversation. It's not popular and it's not always comfortable. But sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to speak the truth even when it's hard. Not to judge, not to condemn, but to offer a better way, a way that leads to real happiness, real fulfillment, and real peace. So as we dive deeper into this topic, let's keep our hearts open and our minds sharp. Let's look for the truth even when it challenges us. Because at the end of the day, truth isn't our enemy, it's our greatest friend. And when we build our lives on truth, we find the kind of love and happiness that nothing else can match. All right, let's keep this conversation going. When we talk about marriage, we're not just talking about a social contract or a piece of paper. We're talking about something that's been woven into the fabric of humanity since the very beginning. It's not just a tradition, it's a calling, a covenant, something that's meant to last and to mean something real. Think about it from the dawn of time, before there were governments or laws or even big crowds. Marriage was already there. It wasn't invented by people, it was instituted by something greater, by God. That's why it's always been more than just a deal between two people. It's a promise, a commitment that's supposed to reflect something eternal. When you treat marriage like a contract, you're basically saying it's negotiable, something you can just walk away from when it gets hard. But a covenant, that's a whole different level. It's about giving your whole self, not just sharing a life, but building one together for keeps. And here's the thing, no matter what laws get passed or what the latest trend is, the core of marriage doesn't change. You can change the rules, you can change the words, but you can't change the reality of what marriage is. It's a union between one man and one woman set in place by a higher authority. That's not just a rule, it's the foundation of family, society, and honestly, civilization itself. Now, I know some folks might say, but times are different now. Shouldn't we adapt? Sure, times change, but the truth, real deep truth, doesn't just shift with the wind. Nature itself points us in the right direction. The way we're made, the way we fit together, the way families are formed, it all tells a story. It's not random, it's not meaningless. There's a reason for it, a design behind it all. Let's talk about that design for a second. Our bodies aren't just random, they're meaningful. Male and female, different but made for each other. That difference isn't a mistake or something to be erased, it's a gift. It's a sign that there's a purpose to all of this. When a man and a woman come together, it's not just about feelings or companionship, it's about creating something new, about building a family, about giving life. That's powerful. But when we start to ignore that design, when we say that gender doesn't matter or that marriage can mean whatever we want, we're not just changing the rules, we're changing the story. We're saying that the body doesn't matter, that identity is just something we invent. But deep down we know that's not true. There's a purpose to the way we're made, and when we go against that, things get confusing fast. Now let's get real about language. Words are powerful. The way we talk about things shapes the way we think about them. You've probably heard phrases like love is love, marriage, equality, my truth, gender identity, family is fluid, and so on. They sound nice, right? They're catchy. But sometimes those catchy phrases actually cover up what's really going on. They take words that used to mean something deep and turn them into slogans. And when that happens, we start to lose our grip on what's real. Take love is love. Sounds beautiful, but what does it really mean? Love isn't just a feeling or a moment of happiness. Real love is about seeking what's truly good for the other person, even when it's hard, even when it means sacrifice. If you separate love from truth, you don't get real love. You get something that looks like love but doesn't have the strength or the depth to last. Or marriage equality. Of course, everyone deserves respect and dignity, but equality doesn't mean sameness. Not every relationship is the same as marriage. Marriage is unique. It has a unique purpose and a unique design. When we treat it like it's just one option among many, we lose what makes it special. And then there's tolerance. Tolerance used to mean respecting each other even when we disagree. Now it's often twisted to mean you have to agree with everything or else you're the bad guy. But real tolerance is about holding on to the truth while still loving and respecting others. It's not about giving up what you believe just to fit in. So why is all this happening? Why are words being twisted, meanings changed and traditions questioned? Because when you change the language, you change the way people think. And when you change the way people think, you change the way they live. That's why this debate isn't just about marriage, it's about the very foundation of our society. When marriage is redefined, it's not just about who can get married, it's about what marriage means for everyone, for families, for kids, for the future. Kids need a mum and a dad. Not just two adults who love them, but the unique gifts that a mother and a father bring. When we blur those lines, we're not helping kids, we're taking something away from them that they need to grow and thrive. And it goes even deeper. When we lose sight of what marriage is, we start to lose sight of who we are. Our identity, our purpose, our connection to something bigger than ourselves, it all gets blurry. We end up chasing after whatever feels good in the moment instead of building something that lasts. Look, I know this isn't an easy conversation, it's not popular, and it's not always comfortable. But sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to speak the truth even when it's hard. Not to judge, not to condemn, but to offer a better way, a way that leads to real happiness, real fulfillment, and real peace. So as we dive deeper into this topic, let's keep our hearts open and our minds sharp. Let's look for the truth even when it challenges us. Because at the end of the day, truth isn't our enemy, it's our greatest friend. And when we build our lives on truth, we find the kind of love and happiness that nothing else can match. Let's take a moment to get really honest about why all of this matters, not just for us as individuals, but for our whole society. When we talk about marriage, we're talking about the foundation of families. And families are the building blocks of every community, every culture, every nation. If we get marriage wrong, everything else starts to wobble. That's why throughout history, marriage has always been treated as something sacred, something worth protecting, and something that isn't just up for grabs every time the culture shifts. Now, some people might say, well, isn't this just about letting people be happy? And of course, we all want people to be happy. But real happiness, lasting happiness, comes from living in the truth, not just chasing after whatever feels good in the moment. That's why there's so much confusion and pain when we start to redefine marriage or forget what it's really about. The truth is, when marriage is treated like just another contract, or when it's separated from its deeper meaning, it loses its power to transform lives and build up the next generation. Think about kids for a second. Kids aren't just accessories or afterthoughts, they're the heart of the family and they deserve the best start we can give them. That means a mum and a dad each bringing their own unique gifts, strengths, and perspectives. It's not about saying one is better than the other, it's about recognizing that both are needed. When we blur those lines or pretend that mums and dads are interchangeable, we're not just changing family structures, we're changing the way kids see themselves and the world. And it doesn't stop there. When marriage is redefined, it affects education, law, and even the way we talk about right and wrong. Suddenly, what used to be clear becomes fuzzy. Words lose their meaning, and truth starts to feel like it's just a matter of opinion. That's dangerous, because a society that can't agree on basic truths is a society that's headed for trouble. But here's the good news. We don't have to just sit back and watch this happen. We can be part of the solution. It starts with being willing to speak the truth, even when it's hard or unpopular. It means loving people enough to tell them what's real, not just what they want to hear. And it means building families and communities that reflect the beauty and strength of real marriage. One man, one woman for life, open to new life, and committed to loving each other no matter what. That kind of witness is powerful. It's not about judging or condemning anyone, it's about offering hope. It's about showing that there's a better way, a way that leads to true happiness and lasting peace. And it's about trusting that even when things look dark or confusing, the truth is still true, and it will always set us free. So what can we do? First, pray. Seriously, prayer is where we find the strength, wisdom, and courage to keep going, especially when the world feels upside down. Pray for your family, your community, and for everyone who's struggling to understand or live out the truth about marriage. Next, educate yourself and others. Don't just take my word for it. Dig into the reasons behind what the church teaches. Look at the evidence, listen to the stories of people who've been affected by these changes. The more you know, the more confident you'll be in sharing the truth with others. Then speak up. You don't have to be loud or angry, just be clear. When people use those 13 words or phrases that sound nice but hide the truth, gently ask questions. Share what you know. Offer a different perspective. You might be surprised at how many people are actually searching for something real, something solid, something true. And finally, live it out. The best argument for real marriage is a life well lived. Love your spouse, care for your kids, support your friends and neighbors. Build a family and a community where people feel safe, valued, and loved, not because you agree on everything, but because you're committed to what matters most. Remember, you're not alone in this. All around the world, there are people who believe in the beauty and truth of marriage. There are families fighting for what's right, communities coming together to support each other, and a church that stands as a beacon of hope in a world that's often confused and hurting. So let's be those people. Let's be the ones who stand up for the truth, who love without compromise, and who show the world that real marriage is still possible and still worth fighting for. As we wrap up, I just want to encourage you, don't give up. The pressure to go along with the crowd is real, but the rewards of standing firm are even greater. You might face criticism. You might feel alone sometimes, but you're part of something much bigger than yourself. You're part of a movement that's about more than just rules or traditions. It's about love, truth, and the future of our world. So keep going, keep praying, keep learning, keep loving, and keep speaking the truth. Because in the end, that's what really changes hearts, changes families, and changes the world. Thanks for sticking with me through this important conversation. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's keep building a community where truth and love go hand in hand, and where every person can discover the beauty and power of real marriage. The unbreakable bond. Why marriage is a covenant, not just a contract. Let's go even deeper. If you've stuck with me this far, we've talked about how marriage is more than just a word or a contract. It's a calling, a foundation, a design. But there's one more layer that holds it all together, and it's something that's often forgotten in today's world. Marriage is a covenant. Now, covenant isn't a word you hear every day. It's not just a fancy way of saying promise. A contract is about exchanging goods or services. If one side breaks it, the other side can walk away. But a covenant, that's on a whole different level. A covenant is about giving your whole self no matter what. It's a sacred, unbreakable bond made not just between two people, but before God and the whole community. Think about the wedding vows you've heard: for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. Those aren't just nice words. They're a public declaration that you're all in, even when it's hard, even when it hurts. That's not a contract you can back out of when things get tough. That's a covenant, a total gift of self, a commitment to love, honor, and cherish no matter what comes your way. And here's why this matters so much. When marriage is seen as a covenant, it changes the way we approach everything. It's not about what can I get, but what can I give. It's not about keeping score, but about building something that lasts. It's about sacrifice, forgiveness, and faithfulness that endures through every storm. That's what gives marriage its strength and its beauty. This idea isn't just old-fashioned tradition. It goes all the way back to the very beginning. In Genesis, we read that a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. Genesis 2:24. That's not just about romance or partnership. It's about a new creation, a new family, a new bond that's meant to last for life. The Bible calls marriage a mystery. a reflection of something even bigger, the unbreakable love between Christ and his church. When we treat marriage as a covenant, we're saying that love is more than a feeling. It's a decision, a daily choice to put the other person first, to forgive, to serve, to grow together. And yes, it's hard sometimes. There will be moments of pain, disappointment, and struggle. But that's where the real beauty shines through, because it's in those moments that the covenant holds you together, even when everything else feels like it's falling apart. If you look at the world today, you'll see what happens when marriage is reduced to just a contract. People walk away when things get tough. Families break apart. Kids are left wondering what went wrong. The foundation starts to crumble, and everyone feels the impact. But when marriage is lived as a covenant, it becomes a source of strength, stability, and hope, not just for the couple, but for their children, their community, and even for society as a whole. Let's be real, nobody's perfect. Every marriage will face challenges, but the covenant gives you the courage to keep going, to fight for each other, to choose love over and over again. It's not about never having problems, it's about never giving up no matter what. And here's the best part. This covenant isn't something you have to do on your own. If you're a person of faith, you believe that God is right there with you, giving you the grace, strength, and wisdom to keep your promises. The Spirit of God breathes life into your commitment, making it possible to forgive, to heal, and to grow in love, even when it feels impossible. So if you're married, thinking about marriage, or just wondering what it's all about, remember this: marriage is a covenant. It's a sacred, unbreakable bond that's meant to last a lifetime. It's a daily choice to love, to serve, and to give your whole self no matter what. And when you live it out, you become a witness not just to your spouse, but to the whole world of what real love looks like. That's the kind of marriage that changes lives. That's the kind of love that builds families, communities, and even nations. And that's the kind of hope we need now more than ever. Let's bring this journey to a powerful close by drawing together the deepest lessons and the call to action that echoes through every generation. With the weight of eternal truth and the solemn duty entrusted to each of us now, is the moment to speak with clarity, firmness, and compassion about what's at stake for marriage, for family, and for the dignity of every human person. We're not just talking about a passing trend or a new social experiment. We're facing a profound moral rupture, one that seeks to untether marriage from its divine purpose, its natural order, and its generative power. This is no time for silence. The distortion of marriage into something it was never meant to be, something flexible, negotiable, or redefined by public opinion, calls for more than commentary. It calls for the clear light of truth spoken in charity and the courage to name what's been veiled for too long. From the dawn of creation, before there were governments or laws, marriage was instituted by God as a sacred covenant, not as a human contract subject to revision or redefinition. It is not good that man should be alone, God declared, and from Adam's side brought forth Eve, not just for companionship, but for the mysterious unity of one flesh. Genesis 2:18-24. This bond is written into our very nature, elevated by Christ, and entrusted to the stewardship of the church and all who seek truth. To call marriage a contract is to degrade it to the realm of human bargaining, but a covenant in the biblical sense is sealed not just by vows, but by the giving of one's whole self ordered toward communion, fruitfulness, and eternity. When marriage is reduced to a contract, it becomes a transaction. When it's upheld as a covenant, it becomes a mirror of divine love, a reflection of the unbreakable union between Christ and his church, faithful, life-giving, and permanent. No civil authority possesses the power to redefine what it did not create. No legislation, however well-intentioned, can substitute for the eternal truth inscribed by the Creator in the human soul. To tamper with this order is not just to err, it is to rebel against what is sacred. The Church and all people of goodwill must speak with clarity. Marriage is a covenant between one man and one woman ordained by God and beyond the reach of redefinition. Nature itself bears witness to this intention. The union of male and female is not arbitrary but purposeful, fruitful, and imbued with moral significance. The body is not meaningless. It is a temple, a living proclamation of God's design. In the distinct yet harmonious composition of the sexes, we find not confusion but clarity, not competition but cooperation, not sameness but sacred difference. This difference is not a flaw to be overcome, but a gift to be received, a sign of a deeper spiritual truth. When we sever male and female from their God-given purpose, we lose our origin and our destiny. When society sanctions confusion, it does violence to the soul and to the family, the foundational cell of civilization. Nature is not neutral, and the flesh is not mute. The moral order is written into our very design, and no earthly power can erase what God has inscribed in the human body. One of the gravest perils of our age is not the open rejection of truth, but its redefinition through the subtle corruption of language. Words like love, equality, tolerance, and even marriage have been detached from their original meaning and refashioned into vessels of ideological manipulation. When words lose their anchorage in reality, society loses its grip on meaning. When marriage is redefined, it is not merely expanded, it is emptied. For marriage, severed from its God-given form, becomes a hollow term capable of expressing anything and therefore signifying nothing. The Church and all who cherish truth must resist this confusion, not with malice but with unyielding clarity. To name things rightly is an act of justice. Where words are twisted, consciences are dulled, and where conscience is dulled, sin becomes normalized. Marriage cannot mean what it never meant. Truth cannot be bent to the will of the age. Love cannot be severed from truth, and language cannot be severed from reality without spiritual ruin. Every great crisis of truth is preceded by the corruption of language. In this hour, a quiet revolution has taken place not by the sword but by syllables. Words like love is love, marriage, equality, my truth, gender identity, family is fluid, and progress are not just linguistic choices but ideological weapons. They form the catechism of a new creed, one that bows not to the creator but to the creature. True charity is not mere sentiment or softness. It is the will to seek the eternal good of the other, even at the cost of personal comfort. To love is to speak when silence would confirm error, to correct when permissiveness would encourage destruction, and to warn when danger is near. Jesus Christ welcomed the sinner, but never blessed the sin. To the woman caught in adultery, he offered mercy, but also commanded, "Go and sin no more." This is divine love, merciful yet just, compassionate yet anchored in truth. The Church's defense of marriage is not born of prejudice, but of prophecy. She is not the echo of the world, but the trumpet of eternity. When divine order is denied, confusion spreads until it shapes laws, habits, and hearts. The redefinition of marriage is a foundational rupture, a moral earthquake whose aftershocks reverberate through every pillar of civilization. Chief among the victims are the children, immortal souls who deserve the truth, not social experiments. When marriage is unmoored from its divine and natural ends, society begins to lose its memory of what it means to be human. Institutions falter. Education is confused, law becomes arbitrary, and what was once self-evident is now treated as optional or oppressive. At the deepest level, the soul itself suffers. When identity is defined by the will, rather than received as gift, man is thrown inward, adrift in a sea of self-invention, alienated from God, others, and even his own flesh. But the Church must proclaim not only what marriage is, but also what happens when marriage is profaned. For truth ignored becomes error multiplied, and the cost is not measured in debate, but in broken families, wounded souls, and generations left without a compass. The battle for marriage is not about politics. It is a battle for the soul of the human person. In every age, God raises up witnesses, martyrs who refuse to bow before the idols of their age. So, what do? We pray, we act, we speak the truth with clarity and love. We educate, vote with conscience, support families, and defend the rights of parents. Courage is contagious. As individuals stand firm, they inspire others to rise. As communities pray and act, they become beacons of hope and bastions of truth. Let us not fear the voices of this world, but heed the call of Christ. Be not afraid. Embrace this holy mission. Let the sacred covenant of marriage shine as a beacon of God's eternal plan for love, life, and salvation. With hearts united and spirits aflame, may we hasten the day when truth and grace reign triumphant. May God bless you now and forever. Amen.